Hey, Sarah, shall we begin? Okay, great. Welcome and thank you for attending the 3Chairs launch event on World Mental Health Day today. I hope everyone's brought their cup of tea or wine. I myself have got an orange juice because I think I'm going to need some sugar. So today I'll be taking you through what is 3Chairs. Oh, Yep. Okay. Sorry, I'm just hearing a feedback. Okay, so I'll be taking you through what 3Chairs is, what we offer, the five key areas that promote the restoration and maintenance of mental well-being, which we talked about in our comms earlier. I'll go into greater detail about the 3Chairs services. Well, I'll also be taking you through a special offer that we have currently till the end of the year. And then, just so you get a break from my voice, we'll be playing a video that will take you through a tour of the 3Chairs website. And then we'll have a Q&A session at the end where you can ask questions about any burning issues relating to mental well-being or psychological health. So, we'll just proceed to the next slide. Okay. So about 3Chairs. Now you might be wondering, it's a really odd name for a company. And it really started from a book by Henry David Thoreau called Walden. And it's about, it's actually autobiographical. It's about his time living in a self-made cabin by the lake in the woods. And he lived there for 2 years where he explored themes like solitude and nature and work and fulfillment away from modern city life. And there's a really interesting quote in there that stayed with me. And what he wrote was, I had 3 chairs in my house, one for solitude, two for friendship, three for society. And I found that quite interesting because as I was completing my psychology degree, I realized that those three areas are actually key in terms of impacting on someone's psychological well-being. So when it comes to solitude, it speaks to how you perceive yourself. Friendship, it speaks to how you interact with others. And society speaks to how a person manages or copes with societal expectations. So that's why I called it 3 chairs. So in summary, 3Chairs offers effective, affordable, and convenient therapy. It's really a hub where it contains videos, information, free information, as well as these three treatment types or these three services to help people, I guess, be their best self. So overcome possibly adverse childhood events and harness any potential benefit that comes from that. And I'll go into a bit more detail about that a little bit later. It offers support for, people who are wanting to realise their ideal life. So there might not be anything distressing for them at the moment, but their current life might not be what they have dreamed about for themselves. So, 3Chairs offers them strategies as well as, treatment programs in order to realise their ideal life. And then lastly, 3Chairs also provides support and help for children and adolescents who are struggling to communicate how they feel and what they think. There are certain treatment programs that we offer to help children, adolescents, and their parents and primary caregivers in that area. I mentioned about the five key areas that promote mental well-being. Now, I kind of arrived at these areas not only through the completion of my psychology and criminology degree, but also through life experience. And what I found is that if your life touches on these five areas, you're more likely to be able to accomplish psychological harmony than if any of these areas were ignored. And I'm going to go through in a bit more detail about each of these areas. And for some of them, I'll provide some examples of what I'm doing. And you might go, oh, that's really interesting. Or you might go, oh, move on. Okay, Nari. Now, nourish isn't just about eating well. I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a nutritionist, but I do love food. And you'll see that when you take a tour of the website. But nourish for me is about nourishing not just your physicality, it's not just your body, but also your mind as well as your soul. So when it comes to things like, for instance, eating, I'm a big believer in eating things in moderation, as well as eating, taking a diverse approach to eating or sampling different cuisines. Now, obviously, when you're eating, you need to operate within the parameters of what your doctor is saying that you should eat and you should not eat. Far be it for me to get you into trouble physically. But one thing to be aware of is that eating is one of the few activities in life that stimulates all five senses. And this level of stimulation talks to life experience. And that's really what life is about. It's about a collection of experiences, either in isolation or shared with other people, that give people joy. So that's why, when it comes to nourish, it's not just about eating well, it's also about, for example, sampling different cuisines. So not only do taste something that you normally haven't tasted before, but you get a bit of a window into the taste palette of that different culture. And it also educates you a little bit on the nuance of that culture. So again, it's all about newness. It's all about experiencing new things and stimulating your brain that way. Nourish isn't just about eating, though. It's also about taking care of your body. So, body care, face care, foot care, things like that. Anything that relates to making you feel good in your own skin. And that means looking after your skin. So, that is nourish. Then you've got move. I want to say at the beginning that I am not a personal trainer. I'm not going to be here, talking to you about aerobics or routines or anything like that, or how many times you should go to the gym. But I will be referencing initiatives to help you move a lot more during the day. Moving, increases your heart rate. It then helps blood circulate through your body faster. It brings oxygen to certain parts of your body that, if you don't move, they normally don't go there. It also helps you expel carbon dioxide, which is really important. A lot of the issues that people have is because maybe they don't have enough oxygen in their bloodstream and too much carbon dioxide. So an example of things like moving would be, for instance, I know a lot of people go, oh, it's too hard to set aside time to go to the gym, because I've got to set aside time to, getting ready, dressing up, travel, driving there, finding parking, and then that's when you start working out. I'm not talking about that. I'm one of those people that complains about that all the time, but I'm talking about bite-sized portions. So, for instance, one thing you could do is, when you go to the bathroom, when you come out of the bathroom, why don't you do, I don't know, 10 squats or 3 push-ups or 10 push-ups every time, you go to the bathroom. So how many times do you go to the bathroom a day? I don't know, 3? 4. If you do 10 push-ups each time, and that doesn't take very long, but if you do 10 push-ups each time that day, then you've done like 30 or 40 push-ups. And that seems like a lot when you put it all together. But it's those little things, those bite-sized things, electing to take the stairs rather than take the elevator, especially if you're only going up or down one floor. So it's those little things that when you add it up, it actually makes quite an improvement, to your physicality. So that's move. The next one is create. Now, I don't know about you, but in my line of work, I'm a mathematician during the day. And a lot of the times my work is quite cerebral. So it's not like I build something tangible and I can look back on it, put it up on a wall and go, ah. Although I do like mathematical equations, but maybe not in the same way. I suggest that, it's important to engage in an activity, particularly if it's aligned with a hobby or a passion, that allows you to create something from nothing. And when you've created it, you end up with something quite beautiful. And you can look on it with pride because you know that you've expended time, energy, in order to make this artwork or whatever it is. And then you can look on it with pride. And that's always a good thing. So I'm going to give you an example of something that I've taught myself for the last year and a half. So some of you may be aware of this, but I started learning how to crochet about a year and a half ago, and I knew nothing about it. And I went online, looked at YouTube videos. I also joined Facebook groups, crochet Facebook groups, where they give really valuable tips and tricks on how to create, beautiful things like blankets and hats and beanies and table runners and things like that. So this is just an example of some of the items I've been able to produce with my own hands in the last year and a half. And there's a video of me actually building a granny square. But aside from the fact that, when I finished, it's, aesthetically pleasing, it's also functional. So I've been giving them away as gifts. I've been using it myself, for the winter months. So they're quite effective in keeping me warm. But another part of it is the journey to creating these pieces. So there's a certain symmetry in the process of, completing each stitch and counting the stitches to make the blanket or make a table runner. And it's helped me kind of quieten my mind at the end of the day. I can decompress at my own pace. And because of that symmetry, it's very black and white. There's either a wrong way to do the stitch or the right way to do the stitch. And particularly because in my workaday life, there's lots of unpredictable things. There's lots of pressures. I rely on others for certain things. So this activity allows me to kind of quieten down, rely on myself, so have a bit more control over what I'm doing. And I find it really peaceful. And it quietens my mind, allows me to get ready, I guess, for the next day and have a good night's sleep. So that's my activity that I've been engaged in for the last year and a half. So that's been really good. So the next one is interact or socialize. Now, human beings are social creatures. We are built to communicate and interact with others. We are not built to isolate or alienate. Research has shown that people who isolate have had increased likelihood of developing psychological maladies like anxiety and depression. They're more likely to catastrophize about things that potentially could happen in the future, and they're more likely to have a pessimistic outlook. So, if you make it a point to interact with others on a regular basis, to socialize, you're more likely to feel better about yourself, about the world we live in, about the role that you play. You're more likely to feel that sense of belonging, whether it's with family or friends. You're more likely to feel or know that there are certain people that have your back and it's not that bad. And also people have their own challenges that you become aware of. So, it all promotes these, good feelings, these pro-social feelings when you interact with others. You're also more likely to experience new things because, family and friends are probably going to encourage you to get out of your comfort zone and do things with me. And there's a joy in shared experiences as well. And lastly, give. So this is the last of the 5 areas. So I guess it's a no-brainer, donating your time, giving your energy and, effort to helping someone else, improve their life, make it easier for their life. I'm sure, everyone's going, yeah, of course. But one thing that most people fail to consider is that the actual action of giving is also good because it, like it or not, it reminds you of your own significance in this world. Because you've made it easier for someone. You've made life a little bit better for someone else, or it might not even be for someone else. It might be for a cause. So you've made life a little easier or better for a group of people, and there's power in that. And without even realizing it, you'll start to acknowledge and recognize how significant you are and the role that you play in this world. So that's why the action of giving is so important. I'm going to give you an example of some of the things that I've done. So, in terms of giving, some of you might know this already, but I volunteer for a rescue agency, an animal rescue agency called DCH Animal Adoptions or Animal Rescue. And what they do is they help abandoned and abused animals. So, puppies, kittens, dogs, cats, horses, guinea pigs. I've even seen rabbits and mice at times. So they help them. Well, they save them from a life on the streets or in shelters, and they place them in homes, in households with families or couples or whatever in a household, so that they socialize. So not only do they recover from their physical impairments, but they also learn to trust human beings again. In many cases, these animals have been on the other end of human cruelty, so they're very scared, they're very hesitant to reach out. So a lot of them are very hissy and a bit scratchy when you get them. But after living with a family that is solely there to make sure that they get better, as well as rehome them, help them find their forever homes or their forever families, they learn to, trust again, and they get that second chance at a wonderful life. So these are just some of the foster pets that my family and I have had the pleasure of, looking after and then finding their forever families. But they all have, backstories of hardship. Like if you look at the little tan Staffy in the top right-hand corner, we called him Buford. He's got his own Instagram account now that his new family has set up. But yeah, when we got him, he was only 4 weeks old. He was abandoned in a national park in New South Wales, and he had cigarette burns on the top of his head. The two puppies, Ridgeback, Rhodesian Ridgeback puppies in the centre there, Mallory and Taylor. We got them when they were 8 weeks old, and they were found with three of their siblings in a green garbage bin. So someone had just dumped them in there. So, but now, we fostered them, had them desexed, got them to trust human beings again, trained them up a little bit, and now they're with their forever families, having the best life. And you wouldn't know by the way they behave that they had such a hard start. And we're lucky because we get updates from the new families quite frequently, so we know how they're doing. And also, a lot of these pets actually have their own Instagram accounts, which is really funny. So I follow them all. So anyway, that's an example of, like giving of your time. It doesn't necessarily have to be money, but giving of your time and effort and using your skills. So I use my skills in report writing and analysis and communications to produce DCH's annual reports and their quarterly newsletters, which help them get funding from various organisations as well as getting donations from the public. Okay, so that's the 5 key areas, and I will refer to them from time to time as we go through this online event. But I want to take you through the primary offering for 3Chairs in terms of therapy treatments. So there are 3 areas that I specialise in: psychodynamic therapy, narrative therapy, and play therapy. So they all have different objectives. They all respond to different I guess, psychological maladies, but they're all really effective depending on your needs. So I'm just going to go through each of them in greater detail. So psychodynamic therapy. So, I mean, a question that you can ask yourself is, Do you feel that at times you are your own worst enemy? Do you feel that sometimes your mind can be quite destructive when left alone to its own devices? Do you sometimes have thoughts or emotions or exhibit behavior that interferes or obstructs you in getting what you want in life? So, a lot of this could relate to maybe defense mechanisms that have been created from, say, challenging or adverse childhood events, or even just events in the past that have been negative, that haven't been effective in helping you, develop in a more pro-social way. So psychodynamic therapy allows you to, I guess, explore what previous experiences may have possibly disrupted your development or your maturity in, uh, behaving in a more productive way, or thinking of yourself or others in a more productive way. And it identifies, you know, to what extent, that I guess that approach has taken, in your life today, and how it obstructs, the things that you want to do. And then we collaborate and come up with effective strategies in order for you not to forget those adverse events. That's not the point. I actually think people who have experienced adverse events are a little bit lucky. Now, that might seem like a little bit weird, but I do believe that they're a little bit lucky because circumstances have forced them to possibly develop tools to build resilience, or more sophisticated coping mechanisms in order to overcome that and still get what you want. So, yeah, we will, collaborate and come up with strategies in order for you to identify, those adverse childhood events and overcome them. Not forget them, but overcome them, and leverage or harness whatever possible benefit that was derived from experiencing those challenging events in your life. Now, I'm going to go to the next slide. Now, I have to warn you though, for those who are triggered by, reference to violent offences or violent offenders, that will be in the next slide. I will only go through it for less than a minute. But, if you are triggered by that, maybe turn away for a moment, mute the sound, and then come back when I've moved on from that slide. But the reason why I'm moving on to this slide is because it provides an example of just, how, how much of an impact events in our childhood can have on the way we develop and mature, to, early adulthood and beyond. So I'm sure you know who, or you would probably know who the person at the top is. So Ivan Milat. Those of you might not know who Edward Kemper is, but suffice it to say, they're both serial killers, and they were caught, they were incarcerated. But the reason why I want to talk about this is because, as part of my degree, I did case profiles on, convicted violent offenders. And what I found was that, in every person, there is a collection of risk factors. So that is, factors or attributes in a person's childhood, and that includes adolescence, which could potentially increase the likelihood of that individual developing antisocial or violent tendencies later in life. And then protective factors, which do the opposite. So they promote or encourage the development of pro-social, behaviours and ways of thinking within a child, so that they can use that to arm themselves in later life. Now, you can see with these offenders, there is quite an imbalance, and the list of risk factors is quite long. So you'll see that, there's alcoholism amongst parents, animal cruelty, even parental styles, depending on what style it is, can have, a detrimental impact potentially on a child's development. The family size, harsh punishments, domestic violence, poverty, all of that can act as a negative driver in terms of children's development. But all is not lost. because there is also protective factors. And if identified early, there can be intervention programs, instituted in the child's life to nullify or negate the impact of these risk factors. I myself am actually building a mathematical equation that will allow parents and medical professionals and educators to identify these issues within children and come up with intervention programs to kind of nip it in the bud, like in terms of that negative impact. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next slide. All right, so the second therapy treatment is narrative therapy. So you don't necessarily need to experience anything negative in your current life, but the reason why you might go for this particular program or treatment is if you look at your current life and you think, you know what, it's fine, but it's not what I had dreamed for myself. So what we do is we identify or recognize that gap between your current life, how you live your current life, versus your ideal life. And then we come up with a strategy for you to realize your ideal life within a given time frame. So almost like business coaching or life coaching, but it's much more pervasive because it incorporates not just, certain aspirations or achievements that you want to accomplish in your life, but it goes deeper than that as well. So it's sustainable. So we also look at, the way you think about things as well as how you react to things too. Third thing is play therapy. So, do you know a child or an adolescent who seems to be in distress but struggles to communicate, how they're feeling and what they're thinking? Do you know a child or, adolescent who, has started to deteriorate in terms of their performance at school, their academic performance or their social performance at school? But again, are struggling to communicate or express why that's the case. So, play therapy is an approach where it doesn't put the pressure on the child or the adolescent to express themselves verbally. But what they can do is they can express themselves through play. Now, you might be thinking adolescent play, obviously, it will be in relation to or commensurate to their age. So, in terms of, engaging in play activities, and that could include computer games and things like that for older children, but engaging in play activities that are less threatening, less overt, but much more effective in coaxing children and adolescents to express their thoughts and their feelings and how they how they think about things and how they perceive the world in a much more productive way, and therefore nip in the bud, I guess, any potential instance of them not developing in, in a traditional, productive way. Can you talk about the special offer that we have currently? So at the moment, I'm writing a book, and in this book, it's going to explore the journeys of select 3Chairs clients, on their journey to mental health, well-being, whether it's restoring it or just maintaining it. And it's anonymized, of course, but the reason why I'm writing this book is that there are some people out there that, for whatever reason, can't access therapy. So, what might be a good way to be able to help themselves is, access this book and maybe read through it and recognize some of the psychological, obstructions they might have that is in line with some of the, the stories in this book. And maybe they can apply the techniques and the tips that we talk about, that we've applied, with the select clients themselves, and apply that to their own lives and see if it improves. So what this means, though, is for any clients that are willing to participate in this book, it will mean that they'll get a free 50-minute therapy session every week for the rest of 2024. So if you are interested, please let us know. Okay, so that's a break from me in terms of my voice. I'm sure you'll feel very happy about that. We're going to take you through, we're going to play a video now where we're going to take you through a grand tour of the new 3Chairs website.
Affordable and convenient therapy to help clients overcome and harness the resilience born from adverse childhood events, realize their ideal life, and help children communicate their thoughts and emotions. The 3Chairs website is your go-to directory for more information about the 3Chairs offering, as well as videos offering useful ideas and tips to help you restore or maintain mental well-being, especially in ensuring you address the 5 key areas that affect psychological balance: nourish, move, create, interact, and give. The 3Chairs homepage explains the reason behind the company name next to a photo of Claire Fernando, the therapist who provides the personalized therapy treatment. If you wish to arrange a session with Claire, you can do so by clicking on the button, Start Your Journey to the Life You Want Now. This will take you to a 10-question survey to determine the most effective treatment to address your needs. Once you complete the survey, you will be contacted by a member of the 3Chairs team who will help you schedule your first session with Claire. If you want to find out more about 3Chairs services, you can click on any of links in white text directly under the 3Chairs logo at the top of the page. If you click on the About Claire link, you will find more information about Claire, including a personal message describing her academic and life experience qualifications. If you scroll down the page, you will find more information about Claire, including a map of her key attributes, some examples of her love of cuisine, and her volunteerism in helping abandoned and abused animals. If you click on the How It Works link, you will find information about the 3 primary therapy treatments Claire specializes in: psychodynamic therapy, narrative therapy, and play therapy. Each therapy treatment type has a Learn More link. Clicking on any of the Learn More links will provide more detailed information about that specific therapy treatment type. If you click on the Price Guide link, you will find information on session prices, depending on the nature of the session. You may choose to have your session in person or via a virtual platform such as Microsoft Teams or Zoom, or through a social media platform. There is also a difference in session prices for adults and for children. 3Chairs currently has a special offer. If you are comfortable with including your journey to mental well-being restoration or maintenance, anonymized of course, in a book Claire is writing to help other people who are unable to seek therapy, 3Chairs is offering you a free 50-minute session every week for the rest of 2024. For more information on this special offer, please let the 3Chairs team know. If you click on the Useful Tools link, you will find videos conveying information and tips on how to ensure you indulge in activities that promote mental well-being across the 5 key areas of nourish, move, create, interact, and give. Check this page weekly for new videos. If you wish to contact a member of the 3Chairs team, whether it is to ask a question or want more information about our special offer, you can click on the Contact Us button on the top right-hand corner. Type your first name, contact number, and email address in the fields provided and click the Submit button. A member of the 3Chairs team will respond to your inquiry within 48 hours of sending us your contact details. The 3Chairs email address and contact number is also displayed if you prefer to contact us directly. Links to our social media accounts are displayed at the bottom of the Contact Us page. These links can also be found in the top left-hand corner of the website. The grand tour of the 3Chairs website is now over. We hope you found the 3Chairs website informative and engaging. We also hope you feel that the 3Chairs website can provide value in helping people restore or maintain mental well-being. Thank you for your time. And remember, all it takes is for you to take a seat and talk to unlock the best you.
So now we're up to the Q&A section. So,
Yeah.
Yep. So, Sarah, are you fine to ask the questions? Or
Yep.
because I know we've got a few.
Yes, so we have had a few questions come through already. If anyone else would like to submit a question as Claire is talking, you can send it through under the Q&A functionality. Just reassuring you as well that it comes through completely anonymous. We can't see who's asking the question as well, so don't hold back. Now's your chance. So the first question we received for you, Claire, and we've got about 20 minutes of question time, which is great. So the first question, do you think imposter syndrome is a mental health issue that needs to be worked on with a psychologist, or just something you need to learn to overcome with confidence building by yourself or with someone like a business coach?
On the degree of self-doubt the person feels. So your past experiences typically shape to what extent imposter syndrome exists in your psychology. It's always best to start with trying to apply techniques to boost self-confidence yourself with a particular goal or milestone to achieve in mind. And give yourself a reasonable timeline to achieve that goal or milestone, underline reasonable. If you find that you haven't achieved this goal or milestone, then I would seek support from a business coach if your goal and obstacles are more related to your career, or a psychologist if your goal and obstacles permeate across multiple areas of your life and are born from difficult experiences.
Right, thank you very much. Next question. It is completely normal to not be happy all of the time, as everyone feels low and unmotivated at certain points. How do you know whether what you are feeling is completely normal or that you actually might have a mental health issue?
I would probably start with asking 3 questions of yourself. So, is this low and unmotivated feeling that you're experiencing, has it been there for at least 2 weeks? Consistently? Is this feeling stopping you from performing your usual everyday tasks for at least 2 weeks again? And also, is this feeling uncharacteristic of your own personality? If the answer is yes to all 3 questions, then I would suggest seeking help by initially talking to someone. So it could be talking to a loved one or your doctor, or if you think it's more serious than that, you can talk to a psychologist first off the bat and just tell them how you feel. So, to help people along over the coming weeks, we're going to be uploading infographics, and each infographic will identify symptoms of a well-known psychological malady, so that either yourself or your loved ones can detect whether the onset of that psychological disorder is occurring. So we'll be uploading the infographic, and you can stick that on your fridge or on the wall or wherever. We'll be uploading the infographic for bipolar next week in the useful tools page of the website. But if there are any psychological disorders you'd like us to include in our infographic series to help identify onset, just let us know.
Thank you, Claire. Next question that we've received. If you have someone in your life that suffers from poor mental health at times, do you think it is best to constantly check in with them and run the risk of them constantly being reminded of it? Or don't mention it and run the risk of them thinking that you don't care?
Can receive help in different ways. And it really depends on how they see themselves, how they perceive others, and how they perceive societal expectations. Those 3 chairs. Again, so to respectfully navigate this, I suggest just having an honest and direct chat with them. So let them know that your question comes from a place of affection or love and ask them directly. They'll either respond to you in kind, so, respectfully as well and appreciative of the concern that you're showing, or they'll just insist that you don't worry. So either way, you get your answer, but it's never a bad thing to let people know that you care about them. They may not necessarily respond in the way that you like, but that actually doesn't say anything about you. It says more about their own experiences and how they've digested those experiences that shaped their current behavior. So I suggest just having an honest, direct chat with them about it.
Thank you. Next question. We know that our resilience ebbs and flows depending on a range of factors. What is a good way to better understand your levels of resilience when they are dropping so you can take precautions?
Well, resilience is it's a funny thing. It can weaken if there are many obstacles and pressures bombarding your psyche at the same time, regardless of how strong you are normally. So it's important to, from time to time, measure your resilience. Not just during times of strife, but also when you feel strong, because then you create a benchmark to compare everything from. So there's a number of resilience assessment tools that you can access online, but we'll also be providing a free resilience assessment tool over the next coming weeks, which you can then access through the useful tools page on the website. And you can use this to measure your level of resilience regularly. A lot of the resilience assessment tools currently online are either paid, so you've got to pay for them, or some of them are free, but they're more around assessing your resilience in totality as opposed to movement. So ours will be more about everyday sort of movement, and letting you know when you need to take a beat, and boost your resilience. So there's a number of ways, though, where you can boost resilience. So encourage a positive mindset. So remember earlier I was talking about the importance of, making sure that you have pro-social ways of thinking productively and feeling productively. So encourage a positive mindset. Surround yourself with a strong, trustworthy network. That's always really important. The people around you that you keep close, they have intimate access to who you are, and they have the power to influence, the decisions that you make. So you need to make sure that the people around you have got your best interests at heart, and you them as well. Engage in self-care, really important. If you look at the 5 key areas, all of them are actually involved in self-care in some form or another. So if you address those 5 key areas, you're already there. Another thing that's important in boosting resilience is reflecting and learning from the past productively. So learning from your mistakes, and learning what the possible outcomes of a certain decision are likely to be based on what's happened in the past, and avoid them if it wasn't to your liking. And the last thing is really be willing to ask for help. That's a big one.
Thank you. Next question. How would you manage psychological safety amongst age groups or generations in the workplace? So when Gen X were built to work hard and work for everything, their tolerance and benchmarks for stress, expectation, and put in, get out is much higher than the generation that follows Gen Y, Gen Z, who would have very different and rightly so expectations.
Um, Look, just when you're comparing different generations, despite the differences in tolerance of stress and pressure amongst them, the one thing that they all have in common is that at a certain point it becomes too much. right? Where that point is where it differs, but they all have that in common. So if you were, I guess, a manager in a workplace and you wanted to look after, the psychological safety of your team, and they are of different generations, different age groups, different life stages, I'd suggest establishing passive as well as overt psychological safety measures in the workplace to accommodate each generation's different approach to mental well-being. Now, as an example, say, of a passive psychological safety measure, you could install structures in the workplace to promote gameplay and exercise, such as a pool table or a dedicated leisure room where employees can read or play games of the board or console variety. Again, accommodating for the different preferences of different generations. An example of an overt psychological safety measure, so much more deliberate, much more in your face, would be to provide opportunities for employees to engage in, say, monthly activities that are aligned with their preferred hobbies and passions. That would go down a treat. And again, it would accommodate for the different preferences, likes, dislikes, passions of the different generations. Interestingly, there's also AI programs that can provide almost like a virtual counselling environment to give employees an opportunity to talk about their stresses and pressures, or to capture it in a confidential video diary, for instance. So, yeah, they are out in the market, whereas they don't completely replace the human touch. They're pretty good at the very least encouraging people to express, their fears, their stresses, their pressures. So at least they offload it and they exorcise it from their mind to a certain extent. So supporting different passive and overt initiatives would accommodate the unique nuances of each generation.
Thank you. So we've got about 7-ish more minutes for questions, so I think we can get through a couple more. So the next question, is there a link or predisposition to mental health conditions or general well-being, or is it entirely environmental?
The pendulum swings on that one depending on the decade, but current research indicates that there is a very strong association between physiology and mental health. So that's your biology. That's a biological predisposition. So people with long-term health issues, or people with a history of it in their family, are more likely to suffer from psychological distress, particularly anxiety and depression. It's interesting, but when a person presents symptoms that relate to anxiety or depression to a doctor or another medical professional, the very first thing the doctor does is actually look for any biological causes. And once they've ruled that out, they then follow that up with investigating environmental or social influences. Look, but that's not to say that environmental or social influences are not significant, but generally biology is considered to be more impactful in driving either mental well-being or psychological dysfunction. So if you do have a family history of it, or you do have chronic or long-term health issues that could potentially impede or hinder mental well-being, there are activities that you could engage in to minimize or eliminate that likelihood. So again, if we go back to the 5 key areas of mental well-being, engaging in those activities would actually take you quite far in ensuring that your psychological well-being is looked after. But it's also really important to try and identify any onset symptoms as they happen, because if you can get it early, it's much easier to overcome than if it's late in the day. And a big part of that is knowing any changes to your physiology, but also your cognitive abilities, your mental processes, as well as how you feel. If, say, you're quick to anger, or you feel much more lackadaisical, all of those changes are really important. Anything that deviates from your normal state of play should be monitored and tracked.
Thank you, Claire. So I think this might be the last question that we have time for tonight. There have been a few others that have come through. If we didn't get a chance for Claire to answer your question in the event, we can post a video response, which we'll share to our website later. So you're not going to miss out. We'll just get it to you after tonight. So Claire, the last question for you for this evening. How do family boundaries affect mental health?
The Christmas, what a great question. It depends on you, and it depends on your family. So it depends on your family culture. It depends on what you're used to growing up. So if you're used to being in the throes of, the center of being a big family that's loud and all the rest of it, you might complain about it, and you might, be in each other's face all the time. But ultimately, if you did not have it, you may realize that, oh, crap, like this isn't a positive state of play for me. I think that when it comes down to boundaries, you have to ask yourself first, are your current relationships, in terms of your family, do they make you happy? Generally, I mean, you're going to have little squabbles now and then and whatever, but do your interactions with family members, do they make you feel good about yourself? Or do they make you doubt yourself? Do they make you, put yourself down? Things like that. If it's positive, then, all the power to you, and that's fantastic. And you're very lucky. But if you find that consistently, interactions with family members or specific family members make you feel low, or make you, doubt yourself or like yourself less. I mean, that's just the worst thing. You can't change other people's behavior. That's impossible. You can hope for the best and hope they realize that, they're hurting you, but ultimately, you can't change their behavior, and they're on their own journey as well. The only thing you can do is adjust your behavior. So what you might do is, you might, if a certain topic of conversation comes up and you're at a party with them or in their presence, and a topic of conversation comes up that's a trigger, you might just walk away out of the room, talk to someone else. Or if it's much more severe than that, you may even have to consider possibly limiting your exposure to them altogether. I mean, one thing to realise, and I know this from personal experience, is if you do cut off family members, it is not a decision that you make just at that time. It's actually a decision that you make every day. And you need to be able to live with it. So, so to answer your question, I don't know if I answered it, but it really depends on, who you are. If you're, I guess, resilient enough to take the knocks, because in many cases it's probably not meant to hurt. But ultimately, what you need to consider is, how do I feel about myself, and about my life when, I interact with them, and and know that you can't actually change other people's behavior. The only behavior you can change is yourself. So what can you do about it to, I guess, either limit your exposure, or, minimize, the hurt that you feel from it?
Yeah. Thank you. We did get one last super urgent question that could not wait until a moment further, couldn't wait for one moment longer. And that question is, my wife is still in disbelief that she is with someone as amazing as me. We've been together for over 20 years. What are some strategies she can implement to manage my aura?
thinking that, I think. Um, manage your aura. I think based on that question, if you've been married for that long, I think your wife is probably pretty adept at managing your aura. But yeah, congratulations on that. That's amazing. That's a fantastic milestone. And it's not an easy one to achieve as well. But yeah, I would suggest that, whatever you're doing, you know what? Your wife is fine. She's got it under control. She knows the 411. So yeah, so congratulations on a wonderful relationship.
Thank you, Claire. That concludes our Q&A portion of this evening. So just reminding everyone again that if you did send some questions through and Claire didn't get a chance to answer them, we will be posting a reply to those questions on the website and our socials, so stay tuned for that. And with that, I'm going to pop off camera and leave it to you, Claire, to say goodbye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you again for participating in this 3Chairs launch event. We were very excited about it, and I'm so glad that you could join us in that. I would like to thank a few people, though. So obviously, I would like to thank Ravi, my husband, and Josh, my son, not just in, helping with this event, but also in supporting me generally across all of my nuttiness and craziness. But in particular, when I completed my degree, they made for very interesting subjects where I tested out certain psychological theories. And without complaint, all I really got was just bemused or befuddled expressions. So I used them for experimentation. So yes, big thanks to them. I'd also like to thank Sarah for organising the event and for just supporting me in general across my 3 businesses. So no mean feat. And I'd like to thank MBS Digital. So they are the guys who built the website, which is fantastic. To my expectations, love it. And of course, I would like to thank all of you for submitting your questions, but also attending the event, on World Mental Health Day, 7:30 at night. I'm sure, you're with your family. So I really appreciate you taking the time to join us in celebrating this auspicious event. So I hope you all have a lovely night and we'll catch each other soon, I'm sure. Okay, bye.